So we all love drafting new rookies in Dynasty, but then
Right.
when you're done with your draft, you're looking at your squad and you're thinking, oh, I'm 5 players over the limit. I got to make some really tough decisions. Hey, that's what we're going to help you guys out with today. We are telling you about players that you shouldn't drop to your waivers and maybe others that it's okay to cut ties and move on.
Yeah.
So do us a massive favor. Go ahead and drop a like to show some support. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content. And if you want rankings from myself, Badake, from all your favorite content creators on YouTube, go ahead and use our code LAND, LAND, at flockfantasy.com/land. Our code will get you 30% off your membership. And if you choose the Mother Flocker tier, Badake and I are going to grade your Dynasty team on a live stream.
Come on, baby.
Okay. Context is important, right? Context is important to every take.
Absolutely.
It can make someone angry in the comments or it can make them understand. So let's explain the context. Some of you guys out there will have benches that are 20, 30 spots deep, right? But it's a preference, okay? So however you play Dynasty is how you play Dynasty. Badake and I are of the opinion that in your standard size league, let's say it's start 10 super flex, or let's say one quarterback start 9, we have about 12 bench spots and about 4 taxis.
Correct.
Okay? A lot of people out there will have bigger ones. They'll have 15, 20 bench spots,
Massive.
6 taxis, 8 taxis. Okay, so we are bringing this video from the perspective of a 12-man league, okay, a start 10, 12 bench spots, 4 taxis. The reason we prefer that is just because if you have such huge benches, I know there's pros and cons, but the con is that the waiver wire is quite literally used, like...
There's no point.
There's no waiver wire, right? Like, there's no one available that will ever make a difference for anyone's team on the waiver wire. So we like to keep our waiver wires a little bit fresh. Using Fab properly is one of those fun parts of the game.
Exactly.
Those little nuances. So that's the context. But we're going to go position by position here and specifically look at rookies from last year who are probably on a lot of people's taxis and just give you the encouragement, hey, based off of our format, we would be dropping this player, or don't drop them yet. Try and make a way. So let's start with the quarterback position. And to be clear, like, we're not going to talk about Chris Olave, Jahan Dotson, Kenny Pickett.
Big names.
Like, we're trying to give you guys names that are probably difficult decisions. So there's no point of us really putting Garrett Wilson on there, for example. So Let's start with the quarterback spot. Really, there are, I would say, like 7 or so names that people will be trying to work around at the quarterback spot. So let's just start with this. Who are some names that you think should absolutely, without regard to roster size, be safe? They should stay on your roster.
There's 3 quarterbacks I believe that should stay on your roster. A lot of people are questioning, depending, once again, one quarterback, super flex, whatever the case may be, and how deep your leagues are. Brock Purdy is a guy that's there on that list, without a doubt. Sam Howell as well. I think that's pretty obvious. And I think the one that's kind of in between, maybe, that I think a lot of people don't really think they should keep, and I think it's Bailey Zappi. We kind of saw him last year on the field a little bit in and out, had a little moment of stretch of, games for him, and people were really advocating for him. And I think that he should be kept on your teams moving forward.
Yeah, I would agree with Bailey Zappi. He's one of those guys. He's not even on the edge for me, right? Like in today's video, if a player's green, we absolutely want to keep him. If they're orange, they're on the edge. Depending on your format, you make the decision, and red is like a clear drop. But to me, Bailey Zappi is he's a strong hold. He's a very strong hold. Please find a way to make this happen. If already last year Mac Jones was there was a ton of question marks about his play, and Bailey Zappi had a chance. Think about how many quarterbacks throughout history for this New England Patriots team have been backups, developed, and become starters somewhere. I mean, Tom Brady himself was that. You've got Jimmy G, who became a starter. You've got Jacoby Brissett, who became a starter. Bailey Zappi is definitely worth keeping. The difference now is that you've got Mac Jones, not Tom Brady, and there's just nothing but... I mean, I don't dislike Mac Jones at all, but there's nothing but negative reports out there about him with the team, with the coaching staff, with the fan base. So he is 100% worth holding. And it's not as if he played inferior to Mac Jones last year with his opportunities. So I agree. Yeah. Definitely in your Superflex formats and one quarterback, definitely not. But in Superflex, he should be held.
Absolutely.
A player that's on the edge that I guess we'll just open a conversation about is Malik Willis. I would say at this point in my formats, Badake, in our formats, like I said, if 12 bench, 4 taxi, I'm probably going to be dropping him unless I just have a free space. That's why he's on the edge. Like, if you have a free space, it's not worth just clearing your roster for nothing. But I think this is very unlikely that Malik ever becomes a starter in the NFL at this point. Not only did he not get the draft capital, he played really poorly. The team has no confidence in him, and they just drafted another quarterback. So
agreed. I think
I'm probably dropping him if I need to clear space.
Yeah, I have him as like a strong drop. Then the reason why is obviously they drafted Will Levis a whole round ahead of Malik Willis. But another thing is, like, I think of the scenarios that I was put in at first. I was like, okay, I need to drop somebody, and I really want to pick up Sean Tucker, or I really want to pick up, A.T. Perry. I really want to pick up Puka Nuka, still on my waiver wires it was early in the offseason when we were doing our rookie drafts, and Malik Willis was a guy that I was like, I am so comfortable dropping. I can understand if you have a spot, sure, keep him. But if there is somebody in the waiver wires that you really like, once again, the Sean Tuckers, Puka Nuka, A.T. Perry, even you kind of went on a run and picked the quarterbacks, the backup quarterback for the Raiders. I can't think of his name. I think it's
Aiden O'Connell.
O'Connell, yeah, exactly. I'm happy to do that. Like, take a swing. Like, Malik is one of those guys that is.
I hear you.
If there's somebody that you need to pick up and you believe in, that's what you're doing, and you're dropping him with no hesitation.
Yeah, it's more like the unknown versus the known, and that sounds so harsh for Malik Willis. But the issue, like, it would be different, Badake, if we didn't see him play at all last year. And we haven't heard any reports that the team don't like him. But, like, both of those things are true, and they drafted quarterback. So I hear you. Yeah. But, again, like, if people out there have, like, 30 bench leagues, there's no point in dropping him. Yeah. But, yeah, I would definitely tend to agree there. I have a lot of Clayton Tune and a lot of Aiden O'Connell on my teams for the lulls. Okay, and 3 names, I guess Matt Corral is one that we should probably take a second to discuss. Matt Corral, I mean, I'm not even sure, like, he's a strong drop for me. I'm not even sure that he will be the backup now that Andy Dalton is there. I think Andy Dalton is probably the backup.
Exactly.
And he's not going to play because Bryce Young's there. The first overall pick, you gave up, the entire franchise is around Bryce Young now. You can drop Matt Corral unless you have any disagreement with me there.
No, completely agree. Strong drop, no pathway unless 2 quarterbacks get injured. That's kind of. It's really rare, and we saw that last year with Purdy.
This isn't the 49ers.
Yeah, so don't see a pathway unless something crazy happens or Andy Dalton retires. It's like, I really don't care. Maybe it's worth holding if there's nobody in between Bryce and Matt, but that's not the case right now.
Yeah, definitely agree. The other 2 names that you can definitely drop at this point, I had Carson Strong on one of my taxi squads just for, hey, let's see what happens. If anyone is out there, you can drop Carson Strong at this point. He's never going to start in the NFL. And then I would also say Skylar Thompson. We've done a similar video to this before in the past, and someone had commented, no, you have to keep Skylar. Tua is injury prone. And we replied to them and said, look, I don't think Skylar's even going to be the backup. They're going to bring someone in. They did so. They brought in Mike White. So Mike White will be the backup over Tua, especially a team in Miami that has ambition to win their division. So
yeah, even then last year they had Teddy, and Teddy was the guy. Then Teddy got hurt, and then Skylar had a game, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was 2 games, and it was terrible. I mean, I think they ran the ball most of the time. It was actually pretty bad. So, yeah, definitely a hard drop.
Let's move into this running back position. Again, primarily focusing on players from the 2022 draft that would be on people's taxi squads. So let's start with players that I think are absolute holds.
Okay.
Jaylen Warren should not be dropped. He will play a role in Pittsburgh. In fact, there's people out there, I'm not one of them, but there are people out there who think he's a better running back than Najee Harris. Keontae Ingram, we've talked about him as a buy low. He's so cheap, and he and James Conner should have plenty of work. The next names I think are, and actually I'll put Jerome Ford in that as well, those top 3. As far as these guys are definitely getting work this year. Jerome Ford, Nick Chubb has no Kareem Hunt in the backfield anymore.
Exactly.
Jerome Ford was a good prospect that we liked, didn't get the draft capital. They brought in no one to compete with him for the RB2 role. Dearness Johnson's in Jacksonville. So Jerome Ford should get opportunity. There are 3 names that I want to hold. One being Zamir White, outside those guys I've talked about. One being Zamir White. I have low expectations if Josh Jacobs is there and healthy. The other is Isaiah Spiller. The Chargers, they didn't add any running back of note. It's still the same running back room.
It is.
So if he's going to continually grow as a running back, it's worth holding on to him. Eckler has had injury issues in the past, and this team is already discussing potentially moving on from him. And then the other one is Pierre Strong. Pierre Strong, to me, is going to get more work than people realize. He showed a pretty strong skill set in his limited opportunities last year. And I think this could be the team's next James White, if you will. I think he could play an important third down role for this team, get a lot of work in the air. Remember, Ramondre Stevenson was kind of playing that third down role, along with other opportunities when Damian Harris was there. Damian Harris is now gone. So there will be a running back to step up. To me, between Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong, it's Pierre Strong. I think he's a better pass catcher, and I think he's just a better overall talent. I mean, he had a pretty good speed score given his size. So those are the running backs that in my formats, I want to find a way to keep these guys. Is there any names that I'm missing or any name that you might disagree with?
The name that I do disagree with is Isaiah Spiller. I don't think he is the next guy up. I actually believe it's Joshua Kelly. Joshua Kelly, in my eyes, is the RB2 there behind Austin Eckler. And not saying, things can change. They are still keeping him. Obviously, he didn't get the draft capital we all expected. But I think if Austin Eckler does go down, misses a game or two, I think it's going to be handled to Joshua Kelly, not Isaiah Spiller. So if anything, I want to hold or hold Joshua Kelly over him if I have him on my team or if I have an Austin Eckler on my team. But other than that, I agree. Jalen Warren, Keontae, Pierre Strong, Jerome Ford. I don't know if you mentioned Zamir White as well.
I did.
Okay, so Zamir White is also a guy I am keeping as well.
Just quickly on Isaiah Spiller, I hear you. I also think at this very moment that Kelly is the backup, but would it surprise you at all or myself if it ended up being Spiller if Eckler got injured?
It wouldn't surprise me. No.
That's where I'm like, you might as well hold him. He's like in the backfield of one of the most valuable positions in fantasy.
So and I think if I see him get on the fields, I obviously you can go either way.
It will be too late if you see him get on the field.
Yeah, if you see him get on the fields, I wonder what that workload is. If it's going to be the full Austin Eckler or it's going to be like a rotation. And I was like, well, if it's going to be a rotation, maybe I'll rock with Joshua Kelly.
Okay, a couple names that are on the edge, and if you have larger benches, you could probably stomach holding on to these guys. Jordan Mason. I mean, you can't really have enough 49er running backs. It's just they have to get injured for them to be useful. Same with Tyrion Davis-Price. Ty Chandler, I would say, is worth at least holding on to if you have a larger bench. With questions about Dalvin Cook, Alexander Mattison could be the starter, and then it could be between Ty Chandler and Dwayne McBride for that backup role. And Malik Davis, I think he's actually potentially the most intriguing to me of this list of these guys who are on the edge, because the more I think about it, I mean, he could legitimately be the RB2 in Dallas. I mean, I know Ronald Jones is there. I'm not saying Ronald Jones is bad, but he will, if this roster stays the way it is, he will get work. He will be a part of this backfield. So I would prioritize him at this moment over anyone else that's in this orange. But yeah, no one else. I feel you can drop Zonovan now that we've got Israel Abanikanda there. Hassan Haskins, what do you do with him now that Tajay Spears?
Yeah.
Kyron Williams, they brought in Zach Evans. Kevin Harris, I prefer Pierre Strong, but who knows? Bill Belichick's going to do his own thing. Is there any names there that you want to advocate for in particular?
No names to advocate for. I mean, I could definitely, with Ty Chandler, I'll hit on that really fast. I can see a pathway where they bring in another veteran, which sounds weird. Another veteran for a cheaper price. They don't want to pay Dalvin. What if that is Kareem Hunt on a $4 million? What if that's Lenny on a $5 million? You get what I'm saying? I think that's kind of the pathway I see. But yes, you can hold him. But I'm also like, I don't really care for Ty Chandler right now on my team. But yeah, I one thing I will also say is Malik Davis. I definitely see a pathway for him to be on this team or be the RB2, even ahead of Deuce. So let's see what that looks like.
Oh yeah, I think he'll be ahead of Deuce personally.
I know a lot of people would say, "Oh, Deuce Vaughn, Deuce Vaughn." You know, people love him in the community.
Sure.
I think he can definitely be ahead of him.
I agree. Malik Davis is worth rostering for sure. Okay, and then the guys that you can definitely cut: Snoop Connor, Treston Ebner, Tyler Beatty, Sincere McCormick. I don't think anyone even have him anymore. But Snoop Connor, I mean, he looked intriguing. You bring in Tank, Dearness Johnson, Jermichael Hasty. There's no point to hold on to him.
Yeah.
Ebner, you bring in Rashawn, you bring in Deonta Foreman. Not really much point to hold with him. And Beatty was always a pipe dream anyway, so you can definitely drop those guys.
I'm looking for Beatty.
Yeah. Let's move on to the wide receiver room. And why don't you hit me with some names that you're definitely keeping?
Definitely keeping. I'll quick fire here. Sky Moore, obviously. Alec Pierce, I'm also keeping just to see what that looks like maybe in a couple years with Anthony Richardson. Romeo Dubs, keeping him as well. Woke up to some tweets about him. I thought that was very interesting. John Mechie, obviously keeping. Rashid Shaheed, didn't really bring anyone in. A guy that we said to buy low. You said to buy low. Tyquan Thornton as well. Once again, another team didn't bring too much competition in. Shakira. I'm on the edge. To be completely honest. And then actually, those are the guys because I have the next two names I'm on the edge with, and we can have a little bit more of a conversation.
So Shakir's on the edge, or you feel like he should be rostered?
He's on the edge. You know, if there's somebody else that's better that maybe has a better opportunity, like Shakira Pukanuka.
Sure, yeah, that's a tough question.
That's a tough question. You know, point, so like, I think that's why I'm on the edge. It really depends on the person on the waiver wire that you like or have a better pathway. Instead. Exactly.
I get you. That's a tough one. I would try my best to hold on to Shakir just because I do think there's a chance he develops into that slot receiver for this team.
I agree. It's tough.
But you're right. There's a higher chance, obviously, that he is irrelevant than he is relevant. But yeah, I would agree with every single one of those names. You know, Tyquan Thornton, I've seen dropped in a lot of leagues. I think that's a mistake. Not because I believe so much in Tyquan Thornton, but because we are only 1 year removed from him being a second-round pick.
Exactly.
For this team. And I know they have historically not hit on wide receivers, but guess what? They didn't bring anyone. Like, they lost Jacoby. They added Juju. This is not a... They lost Jonnu Smith. They added Hunter... what's his nuts? Sorry, Mike Gesicki, my bad.
Right. Okay.
But, like, Tyquan Thornton will have opportunities. He was injured last year. Have no expectations for him, but still a second-round pick heading into his second year. He's worth being rostered, and I've seen him dropped in a couple formats, so I would definitely agree. I'm pretty sure you said John Mechie, but definitely keep John Mechie as well if anyone's like curious. What do I do? You know, his health. No, keep John Mechie. Definitely. He's a buy low. But yeah, let's talk about some of the other names then that are on the edge. One name I know that we need to discuss that certain people in the community will be, you know, what's the word? This is their king almost of the taxi squad, and that is Justin Ross. Oh my goodness!
I was about to say goodbye.
For the Kansas City Chiefs, you're comfortable dropping him?
I was comfortable dropping him in the last video. I never saw a pathway. Unfortunately, sorry to be a hater to the Justin Ross believers. I never saw the pathway. What was it? A back injury, a really severe back injury. He was undrafted, and then they go out. They not only do they get Kadarius Toney, but they also draft Rashee Rice. Don't see the pathway, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this: if I have a free space, he's staying on the roster. But if there's a Puka Nacua out there, like we've talked about, right? If there's, you know, I'm just trying to think, a Dwayne McBride maybe, like, there's definitely names that I would prioritize over Justin. 100%. But if my waiver wires are dead, then I'm probably going to keep Justin on there. But again, if you do need to make room, unfortunately, he will probably be a casualty. Another casualty that I would say probably is a casualty, David Bell.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to talk on him at all?
David Bell, I mean... Pathway's no longer there.
I don't know where you stand.
I was a David Bell believer at a point. I was like, okay, didn't get the draft capital, but he goes to a decent team where you can get a pathway, hopefully. but that pathway wasn't there. We didn't see him on the field pretty much at all. Had some playing time, but now they bring in Elijah Moore. You know, you have Donovan Peoples-Jones, and you have Cedric Tillman. I just don't see the pathway for David Bell, unfortunately, anymore.
Yeah, you cut out there. You said Cedric Tillman, right?
Cedric Tillman, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're on the same page there. I mean, it just doesn't look good for him. So I would roster Justin Ross over Bell personally. Two other names. We've got Calvin Austin and Kyle Phillips. They're on the edge for me. I think Kyle Phillips, probably of all the names, is like, if you have a free spot, he's worth rostering. Just because you look at this team, it's going to be Treylon Burks and Chig. Who's going to be the other name? Maybe it's Kyle Phillips. More likely it's not. But let's say this, I have higher belief that Kyle Phillips will get more targets than Calvin Austin, David Bell, Justin Ross in 2023.
Completely agree. Kyle, I have two on-the-edge players, and that is Shakira, and then Kyle Phillips. The rest of the list for me is all must-drop candidates. People I'm not hesitating to drop. So, yeah, Kyle Phillips, I agree, has the easier pathway to production.
So you can drop Danny Gray, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. You can drop Jalen Tolbert. He he got all of us. Everyone got.
He did the Ukadukes, my guy.
Velus Jones, your king. You can drop Velus. Eric Izukama, Lance McCutcheon, and Jalen Naylor. What does Jalen do?
Naylor.
You can drop those guys. Let's move on to the tight end position here. Again, start us off with names that you think are absolute must-keeps based off of players that would be on taxis last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, some of these guys may be obvious, but in the tight end position, obviously, that's a little bit different. Cade Alton, obviously, you have to keep him with the Bucks there. We kind of see what happens. Jelani Woods, a very interesting guy to keep. Yeah, I'm keeping Jelani Woods. I actually traded him away for like a random third because I needed to get him off my team. I was over the roster limit. Isaiah Likely, I'm happy to keep as well. We saw a lot of production there, especially when Mark Andrews maybe wasn't as healthy. Isaiah Likely stepped in and played really well. A guy we've both been talking about all offseason, Chig Okonkwo. Videos coming out about this guy, no doubt. I mean, probably shouldn't even be on this list. Jake Ferguson, another guy you should be keeping. What's going to be happening in this backfield here or in that tight end room there now? And then Daniel Bellinger, still a believer. I think they could run 2 tight end sets over there in New York. So those are all the guys I'm personally keeping on my teams. Without a doubt, no questions. Not sure if you have anyone else.
No, I mean, tight end spot is a little bit easier because typically the guys who get the draft capital, you want to hold on to them until, it's just obvious that they're not it. This guy wasn't drafted in 2022, but I wanted to talk about him. Noah Gray. Noah Gray, man, it's like getting to the point where Kelsey's not slowing down, and I'm not sure that Kelsey slows down to the point where Noah Gray even gets a chance to be the starter. But again, if I have 15 bench spots, if I have, 6 taxis, which, clears up a little bit on my bench, I'd be willing to roster him. He looks good in the small opportunities that he gets. He does look good. And I'm confident that he could be a starting tight end for this team. But again, that's going to take an injury. That's going to take Travis Kelce, hitting that peak and falling off. So, but one of those names where if there's a very intriguing rookie on my waiver wire, I would ultimately have to cut Noah Gray. Which would be unfortunate. But again, just one of those names who's on the edge.
Yeah, he's on my edge there, and it's difficult. It's very difficult with Noah Gray because I'm on the edge, but more leaning to I think he needs to be dropped. Maybe it's not Pukanuka. What if it's like an Eric Gray, a Keaton Mitchell, maybe not Keaton, Dwayne McBride. I
would do Eric Gray, not Keaton Mitchell though.
Okay, I think that's obviously Pukanuka. I think that's pretty obvious. A Tucker Kraft.
How about like a Zach Kuntz? Okay, yeah, Tucker Kraft. I would drop Noah Gray for Tucker Kraft.
I think
Zach
Kayshon Boutte.
Yeah, I think for sure you definitely would have to do that. But like Zach Kuntz, I'm not dropping Noah Gray for Zach Kuntz.
That's fair. That's fair.
Tucker Kraft, I would. So again, like there's a price for all these guys. There's a point. But yeah, outside of that, I feel like everyone else is pretty much a drop for me. Jeremy Rutkert, you can drop to this point. James Mitchell, Charlie Kolar, Cole Turner, Jalen Weidermeyer. I mean, there's not really, to me, is not really. I don't think any of those guys are gonna do anything. Unfortunately,
I completely agree there.
Yeah. So, look, we couldn't say every name, and it's important to remember the context of the video. But hopefully this is helpful to people out there who are trying to make some tough decisions. Oh, do I drop this player? Maybe hopefully we brought some insight on where that team stands and where their roster stands and where opportunities could lie. So that is it for today, guys. Do us a favor, drop a like to show some love. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content, and we'll see you in the next one. All love. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.